Because the universe is going to give you what you give out. And maybe you're giving out some toxic vibes. And guess who's going to catch it? Toxic people. Did you say it with me?
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel.
That's a little bit of the vibe that I'm in. So welcome back to my channel, guys. Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? How was your Thanksgiving? How are your holidays going so far? We have a few holidays coming up, but I'm not really counting Christmas this year because Christmas is not about to be nothing for me. But either way, I hope y'all to have a great Christmas and New Year's. But let's go ahead and get right into the video. You can see by the title what we're going to be talking about today. As you guys know, most of the things that I talk about on this channel are really personal to me. I usually only talk about personal experiences because that's really all I be knowing. Like, well, I can't go off of anybody else's experience unless I'm doing some kind of story time or something. So what we're going to be talking about today is knowing your worth in a relationship, okay? Maybe I'm making this video for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm making this video for somebody out here. Even if it's one other person that needs to hear it, at least you can relate to me and I can relate to you and we can get through this together, sis, okay? Get through it together. It's better together because on your own, it just feels lonely. So knowing your worth in a relationship, it's something that obviously we all know. It's something that's just kind of logical. You know that you want to be treated a certain way in a relationship, even though it doesn't always happen. The thing is that we think that we don't have any control over that. That is where the problem came from. And I'm sorry the camera is shaking because I get excited, right? But the camera, you should see my whole setup right now. It's very ghetto. I haven't found like the specific setup that I want here in New York yet. So once I find it, it'll be a lot better. But for now, we're going to be improvising. Anyways. We are in 100% complete control of that. And I did not realize this until this year. I have not been in a legitimate relationship, like legitimate, you know, and maybe almost 3 years, like over 2 years, maybe. I'm not really sure actually, but it's been a little while. And I was always the type since I was like 14 to like be in like steady, continuous relationships like my whole life until about 3 years ago. So I never really got a chance to really like become someone, you know? Every time you get into a relationship, you don't become that person, but you do pick up certain mannerisms, certain things from them. So being so young, just continuously in relationships, I always just kind of kept picking up, their little things, and I would kind of just, swirl it into my own personality. And not that there's anything wrong with that. A lot of people can balance their personal life and relationship thing. It's just something that I'm not, and I know a lot of women and young girls are not able to do. It's very difficult, especially if you're like me, a hopeless romantic. Like, I'm just like, come show me love. I want to show you love all the time. But the downfall for me personally, and again, for some women out there, I know is going to be able to relate with me, is that you weren't really able to figure out what you want on your own, figure out what you deserve on your own, figure out who you are on your own. Because when you're able to do all those things, you're really able to see what you're able to bring to the table, what value you hold and are able to give to another person when they enter your life.
Somebody's coming.
I forgot what I was saying. So time on your own is so very important for those reasons. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience in relationships. For me, all I had to go off of is things that I learned from my family and just things that I learned from a really young age, which is not a lot of the best lessons, especially when you have a little bit of a toxic childhood. So I didn't get to figure myself out, and I kind of left home really early. Around 18, I was already kind of out of there. I went back a couple times, but I was pretty much out on my own for most of the time. And again, I was never alone. So that being said, I was very naive in a lot of in all of the situations. I want to say I was very naive in a lot of relationships that I had, and this is a very, I don't like the word. I think of it very negative because the only time that I think anyone should ever be naive is pretty much as a child. It's the only time you don't know anything. You can be naive in certain situations that maybe you're not completely knowledgeable about, but it's always important to take responsibility to learn those things on your own so that you're not naive in that situation again. And me, I didn't do that. I would get out of one situation, okay, the next one's gonna be better. And it never really was. In this video, a little bit, what I want to talk about is things that we need to become okay with. So like me, again, I've been single for a little while, but I was still dating. So I was still, talking to people, you know what I'm saying? So even though I was in a relationship, I still wasn't taking the necessary time to spend on myself. Again, I was still talking to people, I was still dating people, I was still focusing on my relationship life than my own personal life, which is a problem. I want to know if there's anybody out there that's struggling with the same thing, and these are just certain things that I'm starting to focus on now on my own. And maybe we can do them together to try to overcome this. So these are just personal things that I'm going to be working on my own. Some you can apply to your own life and some you don't have to if they don't relate to you specifically. So the first thing that I'm working on, something that I really struggle with, is setting boundaries. I 100% am a very lovable kind of person, but sometimes I really have to set boundaries with myself and with the person that I'm either talking to or in a relationship with, because like I said, things can get kind of blurry when you start sharing your life with another person, and lines can start getting crossed, and this is how argument starts, this is how bad things start to happen, toxic traits starts to build up, and this is something that kind of always happened in my past relationships. So boundaries are really important things. No matter what those boundaries are, you can set your own. I will set my own, of course, but don't let anyone ever make you feel bad about the boundaries that you set. If you feel like you are setting a boundary that you 100% need and want in your life, and the other person does not agree, you can communicate about it if you feel it is that important, or that they'll be able to maybe understand, or maybe they don't understand where you're coming from. And a simple conversation can make you guys understand what's going on. That's perfectly fine. But after the conversation, if it's still kind of not clicking in their head and they're still trying to make you feel either that your boundary is stupid, it's not that important, maybe you can compromise, no, because these are things that you set behind your own morals and values and your own standards for a relationship, and that is perfectly fine. You have to stand your ground with certain things, and boundaries is one of them. No matter what this boundary is, whether it's a small thing, whether it's a really big thing, no matter what, this is what's going to make you happy, this is what's going to make you comfortable. And remember, some relationships don't last forever, so why compromise yourself for maybe even a temporary person? I wouldn't. And why compromise yourself and end up lasting a very long time or forever with this person, and you've compromised with something that might be very important to you, and now you're kind of stuck with it because you let it slide in the very beginning. We have to learn how to set boundaries right off bat. We've all had struggles, we've all had experiences, some toxic, some not, but we have to learn how to heal from whatever it is, whether it's childhood, past relationships, past experiences, it doesn't matter what it is. We have to make sure that we are healed from these things before we're able to, again, conjoin our life with another person. Because what we're doing is we're just gonna dump whatever it is that we have on that person. And right away, you're kind of putting a curse on the relationship, because that person is never going to be able to handle all of your stuff, all of their stuff, and all of your stuff together. You know what I'm saying? So of course this goes for both parties. They have to be healed, you have to be healed, but this is a really important thing, especially when it's bringing baggage from a past relationship. You cannot bring it to your new one. You cannot come in having trust issues. I know it's a fun thing, it's a trendy thing, it's a, it's a whole song, Drake, I love him, but trust issues, no. If you have trust issues, then you should not be in a relationship. You should not be looking to be in a relationship. You should not be talking to anybody, because that's something that you have to fix first. Because you have trust issues with whoever you have issues with, but you don't have issues with this person, and this person didn't do anything to deserve whatever treatment you're about to give them because you have these issues. And that could be anything: trust issues, daddy issues, mommy issues, childhood issues, sexual issues. It can be anything. I know it. I know I know. So we have to learn how to heal from those before getting to a relationship. And then once you do that, you don't actually think about it, but the kind of environment that you set for yourself and the kind of energy that you have around yourself, that's the energy that you attract. And I believe in this wholeheartedly, okay? So if you attracting a lot of toxic people, sis, it might be time to look in the mirror and see what's actually going on with you. You might have some toxic feelings going on inside, because the universe is going to give you what you give out. And maybe you're giving out some toxic vibes, and guess who's going to catch it? Toxic people. Did you say it with me? Did you say it with me? I know, because I know. Knowing when to end a relationship. This is very important to know before even starting a relationship. No, you should not go into a relationship thinking it's going to end, thinking it's going to be temporary. Obviously not. That's putting bad taste in everybody's mouth in the starting of a relationship. So no, definitely not. But again, you have to be able to stand your ground a little bit and know when to end a relationship, because when you're not able to end a relationship, if you're kind of having some internal issues and feelings about being able to cut off a person, or even if you're not cutting them off, just breaking up, separating, leaving the nest, you have to be able to do that, because if you don't, you'll be unhappy. They're possibly going to be unhappy because you're unhappy, or maybe they're also unhappy in the relationship and they can't break up either. And this is when things start to go really, really south. And when things go south, you end up having baggages. And what happens when you have baggage? You take it to another relationship, and the whole cycle begins once again. So knowing when to cut a person off is really important. And how do you know when to cut a person off? You're gonna know. You're really gonna know. And I think it's very simple, because once you start to question it, that's your answer right there. I think people try too hard to stay in relationships because they think that's what it is. I mean, we hear all these older people, all the older generations be like, well, you have to go through all these hard things. And yes, relationships are not easy. You're gonna go through some turmoil at times. There's gonna be arguments, but at the end of the day, you're gonna know that you still want to be with this person. You know what I'm saying? But if you're getting to a point where you don't know anymore, then we have to sit down and have a conversation with ourselves and then with them. Because I don't feel like relationship, they should be a little bit, you struggle a little bit, but they should not be that hard. They should not be so hard to the point where you're continuously questioning why you're even with that person. Because then again, right there, you have your answer already. And the last thing I want to talk about is how you're being treated in a relationship. These are gonna go mixed with boundaries, but more so they're gonna be standards. Everybody has a certain standard on how they want to be treated in general, by family, by peers, personally, with friendships. It doesn't matter. Everybody should have their own set of standards on how they want to be treated. And this is just respect. This is just respect. Because if you have set yourself so that maybe, let's say something small. I'll use a personal thing. For me, I like flowers, okay? My love language is I don't like to be bought things, because I don't really like gifts, but I like little things that you randomly get me, just to show that you thought about me, just to kind of show that you care a little bit. So flowers, maybe a little teddy bear, maybe my favorite chocolate, maybe my favorite whatever, my favorite drink, whatever. My favorite drink is Starbucks, strawberry refresher. I love it. So if you just randomly bring me a large one, it's over. You're like getting all of it tonight. So little things like that, you have to be able to share what your standards are, whether that's your love language or whatever. And if a person is not able to give that to you, what's the point? What is the point? Because I feel that you need to learn how a person wants to be loved and show them how they want to be loved. And a person has to love you the way you want to be loved. A person cannot love you the way they want to be loved because you may not have the same love language. You may not like certain things the same way. And that's completely fine. Being opposite in certain things are perfectly fine. But if you're not being loved the way you want to be loved, you're never going to be happy. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I see that in certain relationships that I've had where I would just be like, okay, well, I really like this person and we connect in a lot of other ways and we have a good vibe or whatever, but I'm not being satisfied in the ways that I feel for me are very important. And I would just kind of let it go. And I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to do that anymore because I just feel like it is a waste of time. And obviously it was because those relationships ended. And I feel like that was a big part of why they did. So again, boundaries, knowing when to cut people off, keeping your standards, and learning to be healed from past experiences are all going to be keys, my sisters, to knowing your worth in a relationship. This is how I feel we can start building ourselves back up, start the new year fresh. This year has been tough, so hopefully 2020, especially if we're single right now, like moi, we can start building ourselves back up. And whatever else you feel is important to you to work on, these are not the only thing. Again, these are just what I'm doing personally. And then hopefully you're gonna have a boo soon. Maybe even get a little ring in your finger, little babies crawling around everywhere. I wish that and all the best for you guys all the time. If you guys like this video, go ahead and like, subscribe. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And never forget to turn on your post notifications so you do not miss out on these videos, because you know I be giving y'all gems. You know I do. You know I do, and you can't say that I'm not, because if you do, you're lying. But I love you guys so much. I hope this video helped at least somebody out there. It is definitely going to be helping me. And I know I will see you in the next video. So until then, bye.